We're going to go back to Eleanor Garnier, our political correspondent, who's inside the Palace of Westminster. Thank you.
Yes, and I'm joined here by UKIP's MP, Douglas Carswell, who's just been telling me that he's waited 20 years for this. So how significant a moment is this?
It's hugely significant. The House of Commons, the political establishment, has long been against the idea of leaving the European Union. Today they've bowed to the inevitable, the will of the people. A clear majority, 372 MPs voting in favour of Theresa May getting on and beginning the process of getting us out. It's great.
And this now will go to the House of Lords.
Yeah.
There's talk that because it has got through the House of Commons without any amendments, the Lords don't really have a licence to start fiddling around with it. Do you think they might?
I think this puts the House of Lords back in their box or their sarcophagus, and it means that they're not really in a position to try to put a spanner in the works. There are obviously many peers in the House of Lords many of them are the sort of former retired diplomats who got us into this Euro mess, who instinctively side with Brussels. But I think they would be on very, very thin ice, given the size of this majority, if they tried to tinker with it.
Theresa May have got this through the Houses of Parliament, yet obviously to get through the House of Lords, but pretty easily. The fact is, though, the much tougher negotiations are going to be when she starts the formal negotiations, those divorce talks with the other 27 member states. That's going to be much, much harder than winning here, isn't it?
Absolutely. But this is what's key to the success of Brexit. I passionately believe in Brexit because I actually want a liberal country, and I want a liberal Brexit. That means we've got to avoid the grandstanding, the political posturing, the protectionist, nativist instincts, and we've got to offer a generous deal to the EU that works for us and works for them. It's got to be based on reciprocal respect, but I think we can do this, and I think we can do it in a way that works for us and works for them. Let's not go down the tabloid headline sensation route of having a dig at them. Let's give Theresa May the space she needs to come up with a generous offer, and I think in a few months' time, I think we'll see some great stuff.
You mentioned that it had passed through the House of Commons with a huge majority. That is the case, but many MPs voted against their own wishes, if you like. They voted to stay in the referendum, but they have now reluctantly voted to trigger Article 50, those formal divorce talks. Do you think that there is going to be the sort of rebels, if you like? They seem to have fallen into line. Do you think it's deal done and now Theresa May has got a free card to do what she likes?
Well, when I was a Conservative and I used to try and persuade the then leadership of the party to adopt a position of leaving the European Union, I was always told that if they did that, it would cause a schism within the party. Well, actually, I look at what's happened to my former party this evening, and actually, they seem pretty united, with the exception of Ken Clarke and one or two others. I think actually this has created a Brexit coalition. And you know, the Ulster Unionists are part of that. I'm part of that. There are even Labour MPs who are part of that, and that's a pretty convincing coalition that Theresa May has got behind her. Some things are bigger than parties, and the future of our relationship with Europe and making sure we get it right is bigger than any one party.
Okay, thank you very much, Douglas. Stay with us. I'm joined now by Tulip Siddiq, obviously a former frontbencher for Labour. You resigned as the Shadow Minister for early years. How do you feel for Clive Lewis this evening?
To be honest, I'm not that worried about people resigning, because if they want to represent their constituencies in Parliament, that's our first job. I mean, we are here because local people elected us, and his constituency overwhelmingly voted to remain, which is why he took the action he did. It's the same thing I did. I'm here because I represent Hampstead and Kilburn in Westminster, not Westminster in Hampstead and Kilburn.
Do you think it was right then for Jeremy Corbyn to have enforced a three-line whip and forced some of his top team to resign, or should he have made it a free vote?
Well, you know, in my personal opinion, I've said this before, I would have liked a free vote, but thank God I'm not Labour leader, so he's probably made decisions in the interest of the party as a whole and the referendum result. But 75% of my constituency voted to stay in the EU, and I felt I had to respect that and reflect their views here in Parliament.
You say you had to respect the will of your constituents, but what about the will of the country?
Look, this is about taking back control. That's what we heard over and over again about the referendum. If I don't let my constituents take back control, then what's the point of me representing Hampstead and Kilburn here in Westminster?
You said that you didn't feel anything for Clive Lewis, but Theresa May didn't really want this to end up in the House of Commons, the House of Lords at all, yet she seems to have got this through pretty easily. And we're left talking about Labour again being divided. How has it come to this, that Labour is divided once again?
So to be honest, I'm not actually bothered about which party is united and divided on this. Brexit is a bigger issue than party politics. There are some things that transcend party politics, and this is about the nation's interests. What I will be holding the government to account on in the next few years, which we should have really known before, is the protection of EU nationals, about our access to the single market, about environmental protections, about women's rights. I have to see whether we actually come up with the details of that, because so far the Prime Minister has avoided any kind of scrutiny and any kind of transparency. As you say, she didn't even want the vote to come to the House. She was forced into giving us a vote, and I think that's disgraceful. We are parliamentarians. We have a right to make decisions and see the details of decisions that are going to affect future generations.
You said that one of the key things that you are concerned about is reciprocal rights of EU nationals. How disappointed were you that that amendment didn't pass this evening?
Incredibly disappointed. I mean, 17,000 people in just my constituency are EU nationals. They have no idea about what's going to happen to their lives, whether they can stay here or not. They are part of the fabric. They've lived here all their lives. This is their home. And what's happening to them? The Prime Minister is using them as bargaining chips. She should be doing the right thing and ensuring that they have the right to live here, that they have the protection, because they are as much part of our society as the successive generations that came before them.
Okay, Tulip Siddiq and Douglas Carswell, thank you both very much for joining us. Well, a big majority for the government in the House of Commons. This Brexit bill will now go to the House of Lords, where we think it will also pass pretty easily.